What's up, Steelers Nation? Welcome back to the channel, your go-to source for all things black and gold. Today, we're diving into a huge offseason topic that could change the trajectory of our offense in 2025. But before we get started, let's take a moment to celebrate our team's never-ending pursuit of greatness. The Steelers are always looking to improve and bring championships back to Pittsburgh, and we're here to keep you in the loop every step of the way. If you love this team as much as we do, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's make sure every fan in Steelers Nation is part of the conversation. All right, let's jump right into today's topic. Could Los Angeles Rams star wide receiver Cooper Kupp be wearing black and gold next season? Let's face it, 2024 wasn't exactly a banner year for the Steelers' wide receivers. After some failed attempts to upgrade the position during the season, the Steelers brought in Mike Williams. While Williams had his moments, he didn't prove to be the consistent weapon we desperately needed. Meanwhile, George Pickens, one of the most promising young talents on the roster, had a tumultuous season. His incredible athleticism and ability to make jaw-dropping catches were overshadowed by emotional outbursts and inconsistent performances. His future with the team is now uncertain, leaving the Steelers with a glaring need for depth and reliability at wide receiver heading into 2025. This brings us to an intriguing possibility. Cooper Kupp. The former NFL receiving yards leader has recently expressed uncertainty about his future with the Rams. Here's what he had to say. "Who knows what's going to happen? That's out of my control. We'll see what it's going to be. Obviously, I'd love to be in LA, but I don't know what that's going to look like." With Kupp's future in limbo, could Pittsburgh swoop in and bring the $80 million star to Heinz Field? Let's break it down. There's no denying that Cooper Kupp is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. His 2021 season was the stuff of legend. He led the league in receiving yards, touchdowns, and receptions, cementing himself as a top-tier playmaker. But the last 3 seasons haven't been kind to Kupp. Injuries have been a major issue, with the 31-year-old wideout missing 18 games over that span. Additionally, his hefty contract, set to account for a $29.7 million cap hit in 2025, makes him a financial burden for the Rams, who may be looking to part ways with their star receiver. Despite these concerns, Kupp's leadership and work ethic could be exactly what the Steelers need. Sportsnaut's Matt Johnson recently highlighted why Kupp would be a perfect fit in Pittsburgh. The Steelers need a number 2 receiver and an adult in the room. George Pickens, for as talented as he is, loses control of his emotions when the football isn't coming his way and can check out mentally. Mike Tomlin would love the mentality Cooper Kupp brings to the Steelers' locker room, and his on-field impact would be even more significant. The idea of Kupp mentoring Pickens and bringing a stabilizing presence to the wide receiver room is certainly enticing. But what would it take for the Steelers to make this happen? Here's where things get tricky. If the Rams decide to part ways with Kupp, they'll likely explore 2 options, a trade or a post-June 1st cut. A trade would allow the Rams to offload some of Kupp's salary while potentially gaining draft capital in return. But for the Steelers, taking on Kupp's massive contract and giving up valuable picks might not be feasible, especially considering his injury history and age. On the other hand, if the Rams cut Kupp outright, he'd hit the open market as a free agent. This scenario makes Kupp a much more realistic target for Pittsburgh. The Steelers could negotiate a team-friendly deal that accounts for his recent injury struggles while still giving him the opportunity to prove he can still perform at a high level. The question then becomes, will the Rams make Kupp available, and how much interest would Pittsburgh have? If the Steelers were to bring in Cooper Kupp, he'd immediately provide a reliable target for whoever is under center in 2025. His crisp, route running, sure hands, and ability to make plays in clutch moments would give Pittsburgh's offense a much-needed boost. Additionally, Kupp's presence could help alleviate some of the pressure on George Pickens. As talented as Pickens is, he's still a young player who could benefit from the guidance of a veteran like Kupp. Imagine a receiving duo of Kupp and Pickens, 2 dynamic playmakers who could keep defenses guessing and open up opportunities for the running game. Of course, there's no guarantee that Kupp's leadership would have a transformative effect on Pickens's maturity, but it's worth a shot. At the very least, Kupp would provide stability and professionalism to a position group that desperately needs it. While the potential addition of Kupp is exciting, it's worth noting that the Steelers are facing several other offseason decisions. The secondary is particularly thin heading into 2025, with multiple key players set to become free agents. The recent signing of defensive back Cameron McCutcheon gives Pittsburgh some added depth, but more moves will likely be needed to shore up the defense. McCutcheon, a 24-year-old with good size and athleticism, is a promising addition, but he's far from a guaranteed contributor at the NFL level. Balancing the need to upgrade the receiving core with other roster priorities will be a delicate dance for general manager Omar Khan and head coach Mike Tomlin. The Steelers' 2024 season came to a disappointing end just 10 days ago. And last week, Coach Mike Tomlin held his annual end-of-year press conference. This time, it felt different. It was somber, reflective, and full of the kind of statements that usually indicate big changes are on the horizon. Certainly, there's change that comes with this time of year, Tomlin said during his presser. Certainly, there's change that comes when we don't have the desired outcome. I'd imagine there's going to be some things that change around here on a lot of levels. Strong words, right? Words that seem to promise Steelers fans that the disappointing end to the season wouldn't be swept under the rug. But fast forward to today, and here we are. No major moves, no coaching changes, and no signs that the team is addressing the issues that plagued them throughout the season. Is this a case of the Steelers doing their due diligence behind the scenes? Or are they hoping the fan base will forget about how the season ended as time goes on? Let's unpack this situation. Let's start with the defense, one of the most glaring issues in the Steelers' season-ending loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Pittsburgh entered that game with the league's highest-paid defense, a unit that was supposed to dominate. Instead, they allowed the Ravens to rush for over 300 yards and surpass 400 total yards before the fourth quarter. This wasn't just a bad game, it was an embarrassment. It marked the Steelers' fifth straight loss to Baltimore and their sixth consecutive first-round playoff exit. For a team that prides itself on defensive excellence, this was unacceptable. So, what's the solution? Many have speculated that defensive coordinator Terrell Austin could be on the chopping block. While Austin isn't solely to blame, it's hard to ignore the fact that this defense, despite its star power, underperformed when it mattered most. Now let's shift to the offensive side of the ball, specifically the offensive line. Pat Meyer, the Steelers' offensive line coach, is another name that's come up in discussions about potential changes. Yes, the offensive line was young and dealt with injuries throughout the season. But even with first-round talent like Broderick Jones, the unit struggled mightily. Jones, in particular, seemed to regress as the season went on, raising questions about whether Meyer is the right coach to develop the team's young talent. The numbers don't lie. The Steelers finished 29th in rushing and allowed an average of 3.3 sacks per game over the final 10 weeks of the season. For a team that wants to establish its identity through a strong running game and protect its quarterback, these stats are a huge red flag. If Meyer's group showed consistent improvement, you could argue for patience. But the lack of progress makes it hard to justify keeping him on the staff. So, why hasn't the team made any moves yet? Firing a coach is never an easy decision, and the Steelers are an organization that values stability. Unlike some franchises, Pittsburgh doesn't believe in making knee-jerk reactions. It's possible that Tomlin and the front office are taking their time to evaluate all options. They could be conducting a thorough search for potential replacements, ensuring they don't rush into a decision they might regret. But here's the flip side. With coaching jobs being filled left and right across the league, the longer the Steelers wait, the fewer options they'll have. If they truly intend to make changes, the clock is ticking. This brings us to a bigger question. Should Mike Tomlin himself be under scrutiny? Tomlin is one of the most respected coaches in the NFL, and for good reason. His ability to keep the Steelers competitive year in and year out is remarkable, but let's be honest, 6 straight first-round playoff exits is not the standard in Pittsburgh. Fans expect more, and rightfully so. While it's unlikely that Tomlin's job is in jeopardy, it's fair to question whether his loyalty to certain members of his coaching staff is holding the team back. Tomlin has always been reluctant to make drastic changes, but sometimes a shakeup is exactly what's needed to get a team over the hump. Now it's time for the most important part of the conversation. What do you think? Should the Steelers go all in on Cooper Kupp if he becomes available? Is he the missing piece to take this offense to the next level, or should Pittsburgh focus on younger, less injury-prone options? And what about George Pickens? Do you believe he can reach his full potential, or is it time for the Steelers to consider moving on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from every corner of Steelers Nation. As we gear up for what promises to be an eventful offseason, one thing remains clear. The Steelers are committed to building a team that can compete for championships. Whether it's by adding a star like Cooper Kupp, developing young talent, or addressing other areas of need, this organization is focused on one goal: winning. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more exclusive Steelers content. Let's keep this community growing and continue the conversation. Until next time, stay strong, stay united, and as always, here we go. See you in the next video.